the bombardment of Nazis and the London bombardment, and you know, also the parallels that we have today with this is really, I mean, very much the parallels are there, and it is showing very well how people, of course, I mean, you can't sleep. Your friends are getting killed. Every family is affected. Everything. I mean, of course, you're tired. You want this war to stop, and of course, Europeans want this war to stop as well. But what we want is that this is stopped for good, not that there's a pause, so that Russia can gather itself and then move on a larger scale, like we did, or like we saw with the Minsk agreements. And then the attacks that came later on. So that is what we want. And I didn't say that there is no fatigue amongst the leaders. There is still, I mean, they are all democratically elected leaders. And of course, democratically elected leaders are bound to the public's opinion as well, and very much tied to what the public is feeling.
Of course, they have to take the temperature at the end of the day of what the public wants. Interestingly enough, coinciding with these numbers I've just shared, there are diplomatic efforts now underway, very much led by Washington, very much led by the US President Donald Trump. How do you evaluate Donald Trump's diplomatic efforts up until now?
Everybody welcomes the diplomatic efforts made by President Trump. It's just the problem is that Putin is mocking those attempts. Everybody else is welcoming because the Europeans want peace, Ukrainians want peace, and Americans want peace. Who doesn't want peace is Putin. So it takes at least two to want peace. It only takes one to want war. And as long as Russia still wants war, there's no peace.
It's very clear that US President Trump is not pursuing first and foremost ceasefire. Instead, he's trying to push Ukrainians to give up territories as part of a future peace deal. That's something you called a trap that we as Europeans should not fall into. What exactly did you mean?
This is the classical Russian negotiation tactic. So, like pushing this, presenting demands, threats, using force for something that has never been yours. And by the way, in these negotiations, they are also demanding territories that they haven't even conquered militarily. So, like, we are making a compromise as we are settling for those territories that we have militarily conquered. So why is it a trap? It is because everybody is starting to talk about what Ukraine should give up. And saying, of course, it's up to Zelensky to decide what territories they are willing to give up. But then, you know, it really misses the point that Russia hasn't made any concessions, and they are the aggressor here. So they haven't made any concessions while everybody's talking about what Ukraine should give away, and that's a trap.
Would you want the US president to be tougher on Vladimir Putin?
If we would all be tougher on Putin, then this war would be over.
But specifically the President of the United States, because at the end of the day, he is, whether we like it or not, he's currently leading those negotiations. He's pursuing his plan.
Well, we have heard that President Trump is not a very patient man. He seems to be very patient with Putin, though. So, yes, I think if we all would do more, then we could deprive Russia of the funds to wage this war. That's why we are trying to find new ways of really what could we sanction so that they can't, you know, circumvent. And I welcome also the decision by United States on the secondary sanctions, which is, you know, helping Russia to gain from the profits of oil. Selling over the oil price cap.
High Representative, am I mistaken when I say that Europe clearly is the largest contributor to Ukraine, but when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to looking for an end to this war, it seems to be playing a rather secondary role. Europe is not setting the agenda here, let's be clear.
No, it's not true. I mean, any deal has to have approval of Ukrainians as well as Europeans, because any deal has to be implemented by